and this time he did so partly in English, by way of showing him his place, for the Mandemonian was as good as white. "Tumati," he said. "You come. We need you. Tinopri, Mina, Kani." Black Bill studied his deeply creased face. "You come fight," the headman said. "Eh?" "Fight with us." "Where? Kana Mema? Letanina?" "Tromamena." Bill looked around at those grimly visaged men of war. Each and every one met his eyes, and he saw among their faces the bold expectations held for him. "You strong man, you fight," the headman said. "Come with us." Black Bill was silent. He scratched at the old ritual scars on his chest. He called to his woman to leave her bed, and when no reply came, he called again. His words oddly deadened by the mist between the trees. Soon, she showed in the doorway, bundled in a blanket, and Bill asked for the meat to be brought out. "Tawatia," she said to the clansmen, but they looked away from her and shook their heads. Her hair, long for a black woman, seemed to upset them. "Her name what?" Bill faced the headman. "Catherine." "Catherine," the headman said to her. "You good woman. You bring food. Catherine. Bring tea. Good woman. We talk." She stared at him. Then she vanished into the hut. Manalargena smiled and waited until she returned with a cold joint of kangaroo. The clansmen ate freely and passed the billy can of tea around every mouth. Over the smack of lips, the headman praised Bill for the fine wife he had taken, her obedience, her silence. And on a whim he stood and strutted in mockery of his own proud wife, and raised their laughter with his portrayal of her arrogant bearing. The beard on his chin was matted, and the lank twists as red as a rooster's wattle jiggled while he walked about. Dark hands flapped at his sides, and his nose turned high. The men of his party laughed, but Bill watched and kept his tongue still. Once more the headman sat among the men of his clan and reached for the billy can. He drank, wiped his mouth, and looked towards Bill. In the doorway, Catherine held her rounded belly. The headman waved a crooked finger at her. "She carry what?" "I don't know," said Bill. The headman studied her a moment and rubbed his plagued left arm. It was a mass of scars where he tried to bleed the demon out in his youth. "Boy," he said. "Strong boy. I know this." The cold sun in the trees as it loomed over the hills picked out Manalargena's features. The folds of his face, the cross-hatching rent in the flesh of his evil arm. Here was a man who might part the very weft of the world by his own words. A man sung up and down the island. The whites wanted him for hanging, and several locals had stood their own private funds against the receipt of his head for campaigns conducted upon them by his clan. But Black Bill looked away from him. The headman said, "A boy. My demon tell me." There was another elder among the party, an old man of skin and sinew, who summoned their eyes to himself by beating his waddy on his palm. He was called Taralta, and his face was scarred and churlish. He alone in that clan knew the law and its application, and he talked quietly into the hush his tapping had created. He spoke long against the whites and decried their contempt for peace, with ancient turns of phrase Bill could not comprehend, metaphors that had lost sense for all but a few wizened lawkeepers. He called the whites the cawing of the crow for morning, an inundation driving his kind into the heights of the mountains, the peaks of the trees. He had used a great litany of evils befouling his clan, and on each point he drew attention to the culpability of the whites and the flagrant disregard they displayed for any notion of justice. He said that if you forgave the devil